Hey everyone and welcome back. I hope you all had a fantastic break. If you haven't seen it yet, Funcom released a trailer for Conan Exiles and a gameplay stream, specifically covering what we can expect from the base building and the crafting. Now, a lot of the information that was discussed and highlighted in both the trailer and the stream, we already know, and I have explained all of this in my previous videos. However, there are some aspects of both the crafting system and the base building that we were unsure about, which were discussed. If you haven't watched the base building trailer or the stream from Funcom yet, I have left links to both in the description below. So let's get right into it. The trailer takes a look at some of the elements of the base building and crafting that we can expect. Firstly, by stating that bases are designed to provide protection, storage, and an area for you to hang out with your friends and clan. Highlighted in the gameplay stream, the developers stated that there will be 3 tiers of building strength. Each of these tiers require different materials to craft, and on that, the crafting system will be used extensively in order to create materials to produce higher tier building components. The different tiers have both different appearances and strengths, meaning you'll need to use different tactics to destroy a building depending on its tier. An interesting element they mentioned here is that when they built the base building system, they wanted it to be flexible, and by flexible they used the example that you could build on the side of a mountain if you so choose. A stability system is in the game, and placing building components is heavily dependent on stability. You'll be unable to place down walls and other building components if the building does not have enough stability. In addition, if key building components are removed, which are contributing to the stability of a structure, other building components will also be affected and collapse. Depending on the heights, the location, and the environment you build, your base will need to ensure that there are foundations or pillars which contribute to its building stability. The crafting system was mentioned in both videos, and the developers were mentioning that with the crafting system, it will be a tier-based system. Therefore, to craft high-level items, you'll need to build crafting stations. There are a few crafting stations that were highlighted. These include forges, armor-making benches, woodworking benches, and tanneries. Most of these we saw in the gameplay streams. However, I have a feeling there might be a few others that were not included. For example, tailoring stations to make cloth-based items, or if potions are in the game, a potion crafting station. With the crafting, the developers mentioned that furnishing your base is going to be very extensive, going as far as to say that you'll be able to slay monsters and mount their heads on your walls. The crafting system is primarily designed to structure player progression. To develop higher tier building materials will require lots of time and effort. In addition, summoning avatars will also require a high level of crafting. One thing that stood out for me in the trailer was that they were mentioning that if you capture a Stygian thrall who was a blacksmith and place them in front of a Stygian forge, that you will unlock their knowledge to craft Stygian weaponry. This is important because I'm assuming that based on the biomes that will be in the game, that thralls will be specific to those biomes. I personally don't think crafting stations will be race specific, even though they mentioned it in this video. I think that thralls will be race specific, and when you place them in front of a crafting station, that the crafting station is then assigned to that thrall's race. There was no mention if thralls have crafting levels, and this is probably something that they will revisit or reveal later on, possibly when the game is released. Finally, planning out your bases will be crucial. Depending on where you place the altar of your religion, it can either benefit you or hinder you, as the avatars that you summon have the potential of destroying your own base when you summon them. Just before I wrap up this video, there were some interesting shots in the trailer that we can see. At 6 seconds in, we can see a different looking village from the rest of the villages we have seen across all of the content that has been released. In a lot of previous interviews, and confirmed in the recent gameplay stream, the developers were stating that depending on the materials, different looking bases will be able to be crafted and built. This might be a case of that, and from the design of the base, it doesn't appear to be a fixed structure. It is either a player-built city or an NPC village or camp. And they also mentioned that depending on the biome, different looking buildings, different looking gear, weaponry will also suit that environment as well. At 8 seconds in, we can see what appears to be a bone dinosaur looking creature that appears to be in a pit surrounded by an ancient structure. This monster could be a boss in an underground zone or dungeon that the developers were mentioning in one of their previous gameplay streams, and I'm pretty sure this is exactly what that monster is. If we compare the monster in this trailer with a monster in one of the previous trailers, we can see that they look pretty similar. I'm assuming these monsters will either be bosses or high-level elites requiring multiple players to slay. At 39 seconds in, we can see other religious altars. Now, this religious altar is the altar of Yog, and we know this based off the artwork that was posted on the Conan Exiles Facebook page. Yog is a religion that focuses primarily on cannibalism and sacrificing your enemies to gain strength. For some final bonus information that I gathered from the gameplay stream, so I'm just going to run through this just with bullet points. So Conan Exiles will include in-game voice chat. You're able to rotate items using the scroll wheel to place an item in the correct position. There doesn't seem to be any restriction on building distance from what we saw in the gameplay stream. Sandstorms do damage you if you do not have protective clothing, but there are reasons to venture out into sandstorms, but they weren't mentioned. Certain mountaintops and ancient structures will be unreachable, therefore you'll need to build up to them to gain access. Summoning an avatar takes a long time, and players can be killed during the summoning of their avatar. All players on the map will be notified that a player is summoning a god at that time. You will be able to control an avatar for a short duration of time, however it wasn't mentioned how long the avatar lasts for. Summoning an avatar is the primary endgame of Conan Exiles. Summoning an avatar is extremely difficult and requires the highest level of crafting, a thrall who is a high level priest of the religion being worshipped, and lots of teamwork. This mechanic and the requirements will vary for those that choose to play single player. Once you have summoned your avatar, the altar that it was spawned at is destroyed, and you'll need to acquire all the materials, the thrall, and build the altar once again. That's going to do it for this video, guys. If there was anything that I forgot to mention or some interesting elements that I didn't pick up on, leave them in the comments section below. This game is looking better and better as the weeks go on, and it's less than a month now until the early access release. Let me know where you plan on building your base. Will you build it on the side of a mountain like what they showed off in the trailer and the gameplay stream? Anyway, thanks for watching everyone, and until next time, cheers.